Have you ever wondered why, no matter how capable or determined you are, life often seems to push you into moments of struggle, pain, or failure? Society would have you believe that suffering is a punishment, a sign that you are falling behind or that you have done something wrong. But this is a lie we accept without question. The deeper truth, as Alan Watts teaches, is that suffering is not a barrier. It is the teacher you never asked for, but desperately need. It shapes perception, builds resilience, and awakens insight in ways that comfort and ease never could. Imagine for a moment that every difficulty you faced, the losses, the betrayals, the humiliations, was not meant to break you, but to prepare you for a version of yourself capable of navigating life with clarity, strength, and purpose. By the end of this reflection, you may see your past struggles not as setbacks, but as the essential groundwork for future victories. Before we go deeper, take a moment to subscribe, share, and comment, because your engagement helps other men who feel trapped in their suffering realize that every trial carries a hidden lesson and a step toward true mastery. Suffering often begins as something we resist, something we label as a failure or misfortune. The man believes that comfort, success, and achievement are the marks of a life well lived, and yet he discovers that these rewards, when obtained without challenge, feel hollow. Pain, setbacks, and disappointment seem unfair at first, but they carry subtle lessons that ease can never provide. Each moment of struggle sharpens perception, hones judgment, and reveals the illusions that we have unconsciously built around what it means to succeed. The hours spent in frustration, the mistakes made under pressure, the losses that once felt unbearable, all of these are not random cruelties, but deliberate shaping forces, quietly building strength and clarity beneath the surface. Before awakening, a man may seek to avoid suffering at all costs, chasing validation, comfort, or recognition, hoping to bypass the difficulties that life inevitably brings. Yet this avoidance only prolongs struggle, leaving the spirit untested, shallow, and vulnerable. Alan Watts would say that the rhythm of life includes both joy and challenge, and that mastery comes not from avoiding hardship, but from moving with it, learning its language, and letting it transform the interior landscape. The man who embraces this perspective begins to notice patterns. The difficulties that once seemed insurmountable were preparing him for decisions, responsibilities, and opportunities that could only be understood through experience, resilience, and introspection. What once felt like punishment slowly reveals itself as preparation. Externally, others may see a man enduring suffering as weak, unlucky, or flawed. Friends, colleagues, and even family may not recognize the quiet growth taking place, the fortitude quietly forged in isolation, challenge, or disappointment. Yet internally, he is building a foundation far stronger than any comfort can provide. The tension between appearance and essence becomes a source of subtle power. What the world perceives as struggle, loneliness, or failure is actually the shaping of character, the cultivation of patience, and the awakening of discernment. Each trial offers insight, each obstacle teaches strategy, and each heartbreak or defeat strengthens the ability to navigate future challenges with confidence. As he begins to recognize the hidden purpose within suffering, the man sees that what felt like chaos is actually order in disguise. Every difficult decision, every forced confrontation with reality, every moment of doubt becomes a teacher, showing him where attachments, illusions, or unexamined habits once limited him. Pain, rather than being an enemy, becomes an ally, a force that reveals what truly matters and what is expendable. In this awareness, he starts to live with a new rhythm. He no longer fights suffering or tries to erase discomfort, but moves with it, letting its lessons guide him, refine him, and prepare him for outcomes that ease alone could never deliver. Suffering does not only shape the individual internally, it also reshapes the way he relates to the world. Before awakening, the man might have measured his worth by external markers, approval from peers, recognition at work, or admiration from those around him. Each failure felt like a reflection of inadequacy, each setback a personal indictment. Yet, as he endures and reflects on his struggles, he begins to see these measures as illusions, constructs that once dictated his behavior and limited his vision. The more he engages with suffering consciously, the more he uncovers a different kind of currency: resilience, patience, insight, and an understanding of life's subtle patterns that those untested by hardship rarely perceive. What once seemed like humiliation now becomes a teacher, and every challenge transforms into a stepping stone toward self-mastery. Externally, people continue to misinterpret his transformation. Colleagues may call him stubborn or distant, friends may label him strange, and family may misread his focus and calm for detachment. But beneath the surface, a profound shift is taking place. The man who was once reactive and dependent on validation is now grounded, independent, and aligned with his inner truth. This contrast between appearance and essence creates tension, but it also signals a deeper power. He is no longer beholden to approval or praise. Instead, his strength grows silently, almost imperceptibly, like a river carving its path beneath rocks and obstacles. He moves through life with clarity, acting decisively when necessary, observing quietly when required, and responding to challenges with a balance that those still caught in the struggle cannot comprehend. The lessons of suffering extend further into desire, ambition, and the very meaning of success. The man learns that what he once sought, comfort, recognition, the approval of others, was often a distraction from the growth he truly needed. The hardships he endured were not obstacles to his goals, but instruments of preparation, revealing what he is capable of when he stops measuring himself against the world and begins listening to his own depth. Each disappointment, each forced confrontation with reality strips away illusions, leaving only what is essential and true. In this way, suffering transforms from a source of fear into a guide for action, a quiet teacher that cultivates the clarity and strength necessary to navigate life with purpose. Finally, the awakening deepens as he internalizes the paradox that Watts often described. The very struggles that seemed unbearable were the architects of his future victories. What once looked like defeat now appears as groundwork, each painful moment preparing him for challenges that require more than effort. They demand wisdom, presence, and resilience. The man realizes that success, when it comes, is not an accident of luck or effort alone, but the natural consequence of having endured, learned, and grown through suffering. In this perspective, pain is no longer a foe, but a silent partner in shaping a life of mastery, freedom, and authentic accomplishment. As the man moves deeper into this awareness, he begins to see power in a completely new light. Power is no longer about control over others, about status, or about forcing outcomes to match expectations. Instead, it becomes the quiet authority that emerges when one understands oneself, when one acts with intention, and when one navigates life with clarity and composure. The struggles he endured, once seen as misfortune, are now revealed as the very forces that sculpted this strength. Each challenge, each moment of doubt or pain has honed his ability to remain centered amid chaos, to choose action over reaction, and to approach life with the wisdom born of experience. What seemed like weakness, the moments of hesitation, reflection, or retreat, is in fact the cultivation of the very qualities that define mastery and resilience. Desire itself is transformed through suffering. Where once he chased approval, wealth, or recognition, he now seeks alignment, depth, and authenticity. He notices that the pursuits which once caused anxiety and frustration are no longer appealing, while the efforts that resonate with his inner truth produce fulfillment effortlessly. In this state, ambition is no longer frantic or blind. It is deliberate, conscious, and guided by insight. Opportunities, relationships, and achievements begin to emerge with a natural rhythm, as though life itself responds to the man who has been tempered by challenge. The world may still misread his calm or detachment, but these are the signs of a new kind of power, one that does not demand recognition, yet carries an unmistakable influence. Even failure is reinterpreted through this lens. The man sees setbacks not as personal flaws, but as essential information, markers that reveal where he must adapt, learn, or grow. Each obstacle teaches him to navigate uncertainty with composure and to act with precision rather than impulse. The fear of judgment, rejection, or inadequacy gradually dissolves, replaced by confidence rooted in experience and insight. By enduring suffering and engaging with it consciously, he gains a resilience that no external validation could provide. This inner fortitude allows him to act decisively, to embrace challenges, and to persist in ways that appear effortless to those still caught in struggle. Relationships and social dynamics also shift profoundly. People are drawn not to his pursuit of status, but to the calm, deliberate presence he now embodies. Friends, colleagues, and even strangers sense the depth and steadiness that come from a man who has endured and learned. Connections become richer and more meaningful, no longer dominated by the need for validation or approval. The man who has suffered now understands the subtleties of human interaction, able to navigate complexities with empathy and clarity. In every aspect of life, the lessons of hardship reveal themselves as preparation, revealing that the man he has become is stronger, wiser, and more aligned than ever before. Finally, he begins to recognize the paradox that Watts often emphasized. The very suffering that once seemed like a burden was actually a guide. Hardship does not diminish the man, it elevates him, preparing him for success that is both authentic and sustainable. What appeared as weakness or loss is now revealed as strength and liberation. Through the crucible of struggle, he emerges capable of achieving with clarity, acting with purpose, and living fully without the anxiety, distraction, or illusions that once defined his efforts. Suffering, in this view, is not the enemy. It is the foundation upon which mastery, freedom, and authentic success are built. As the man continues to integrate these lessons, the effects begin to manifest in every dimension of his life, both visible to others and deeply internal. On the outside, he may appear calm, even detached, as if unaffected by the pressures and expectations that once dominated his world. Colleagues might misinterpret his composure for indifference. Friends may see him as distant, and family might quietly worry that he has withdrawn from ambition. Yet beneath this apparent stillness lies a transformation far more potent than any visible achievement. A quiet, unshakable authority that arises from experience, discernment, and the wisdom gained through suffering. The contrast between how he appears and who he truly has become creates a tension that is itself empowering, a reminder that true strength is often invisible to those still chasing superficial measures of success. Internally, his perspective shifts profoundly. Where anxiety, frustration, and fear once dominated, there is now clarity, calm, and focus. Decisions that were once burdensome become precise and deliberate. The energy that was once scattered in endless struggle is now consolidated, flowing toward meaningful action rather than compulsive reaction. He begins to perceive patterns and opportunities that were invisible before, seeing life's currents and moving with them rather than against them. The very challenges that once caused despair now appear as markers guiding him toward growth and understanding. What was painful becomes informative. What was chaotic becomes instructive. What once felt like a setback becomes the foundation for future success. Relationships, too, reflect the transformation. The man no longer seeks approval or validation. He engages with others from a place of authenticity and presence. Connections deepen naturally, and interactions are no longer dominated by competition, fear, or pretense. Those who resonate with his energy are drawn closer, while those who do not fall away without conflict, leaving space for genuine connections to thrive. The struggles he endured have equipped him to navigate human dynamics with empathy, clarity, and quiet authority. Social interactions, once a source of stress or performance, now become opportunities to exercise understanding and discernment, strengthening bonds without force or manipulation. The lessons of suffering also amplify his effectiveness in action. Projects, goals, and ambitions that once felt like uphill battles now unfold with surprising ease. The man no longer wastes energy forcing outcomes. Instead, he acts with intention, guided by insight and experience. The clarity he has cultivated through struggle allows him to identify what truly matters and to invest effort where it has real impact. The outcomes he achieves are no longer the result of frantic toil, but the natural consequence of alignment, presence, and understanding. This is the essence of effortless mastery, doing less while accomplishing more, acting with precision while navigating complexity, and achieving results without the exhaustion of uncalibrated effort. Finally, the man begins to understand the full paradox of his journey. The suffering he endured, which once seemed like a curse, has become the foundation of his freedom, power, and clarity. External appearances may still be misread, but internal transformation is undeniable. The hardships, setbacks, and challenges that shaped him have revealed a strength that cannot be taken away, a resilience that endures, and a presence that commands attention without demand. He realizes that success is not merely surviving or accumulating, but thriving through alignment, insight, and the wisdom born of experience. In this evolution, suffering is no longer feared or resented. It is honored as the silent architect of mastery, the essential preparation for a life lived fully and powerfully. With the foundation of suffering now understood, the man begins to see desire and fulfillment in an entirely new way. What once drove him, the constant pursuit of recognition, wealth, or approval, loses its grip, revealing itself as a shallow form of motivation that often led only to anxiety and distraction. Instead, he discovers that true fulfillment arises from alignment with his own rhythm, from engaging deeply with challenges that resonate with his inner truth, and from cultivating presence in every action. The trials he endured have sharpened his discernment, allowing him to choose goals and relationships with care, avoiding pursuits that drain rather than nourish. Desire transforms from frantic chasing into deliberate, intentional striving, guided not by fear or expectation, but by clarity and insight. The man also reinterprets what it means to succeed. The victories he once imagined, promotions, possessions, or accolades, now seem secondary to the sense of mastery he has cultivated. Each decision, each moment of reflection, each challenge met with presence contributes to a quiet but undeniable power that affects every aspect of his life. Others may still see him as detached or unconventional, misjudging the effort behind his calm demeanor, but the reality is that his alignment amplifies effectiveness and impact far beyond what raw effort could achieve. Success is no longer the result of endless struggle, but the natural outcome of a life informed by hardship, tempered by experience, and guided by awareness. Relationships continue to evolve under this new perception. Interactions that once carried anxiety, neediness, or performative effort now flow with authenticity and ease. He attracts individuals who resonate with his depth and clarity, while naturally creating distance from superficial or draining connections. The man has learned that the quality of engagement matters more than quantity, and that presence, attention, and honesty cultivate far more meaningful bonds than effort or striving ever could. Even social pressure and judgment, once a source of fear, now serve as subtle indicators, offering feedback without defining his self-worth. Finally, the paradox becomes clear. The very suffering that seemed unbearable was the instrument that revealed the path to effortless mastery, authentic desire, and meaningful fulfillment. What appeared as weakness is now strength. What felt like loss becomes opportunity, and what seemed like defeat is, in fact, preparation. The man experiences life with a quiet confidence, a clarity of purpose, and a freedom that no external reward or validation could provide. Through the lessons of hardship, he has discovered the hidden architecture of success, not built on relentless toil, but on alignment, awareness, and the profound wisdom gained only through enduring life's inevitable struggles. What once appeared as isolation, struggle, or failure now reveals itself as the very source of clarity, strength, and freedom. The man who seemed distant, defeated, or broken is in truth whole, grounded, and fully prepared to navigate life with insight, purpose, and presence. The hardships he endured, the betrayals, the losses, the moments of doubt and despair were never punishments but silent instructors, shaping his resilience, refining his judgment, and revealing capacities he would never have discovered in comfort. Each setback, each challenge, each painful lesson served as a guide, showing him where his attachments, fears, and illusions once held him hostage and offering a way to step beyond them. What once seemed like weakness has become a reservoir of strength. What once felt like loss has become liberation, and what appeared as defeat has become the foundation of mastery, wisdom, and authentic self-possession. Now, he moves through the world differently. His actions are deliberate, his choices informed, and his presence commands attention without demand. The approval of others no longer dictates his peace, and the chaos of circumstance no longer destabilizes him. He has learned that suffering does not diminish, but teaches. It does not punish, but prepares. It does not break, but builds. Every trial he faced was an invisible architect, laying the groundwork for a life of effortless strength, discernment, and fulfillment. Where he once rushed, struggled, and feared, he now acts with calm, flowing energy, able to engage deeply with the world without being consumed by it. Opportunities, relationships, and achievements unfold naturally around him, guided by alignment and understanding rather than frantic effort or compulsion. The paradox becomes undeniable. The very moments that felt unbearable, pain, uncertainty, and loss, were the forces that forged his most essential capacities. He realizes that clarity, power, and freedom do not come from avoiding hardship, but from meeting it, learning from it, and allowing it to shape him. In embracing the lessons of suffering, he becomes a man who is not defined by what he endured, but by how he rose through it, how he integrated its teachings, and how he now moves forward with quiet authority. His life, once measured by external metrics of success and validation, is now guided by insight, presence, and purpose. And in this space, he discovers a profound truth. The cost of truth, the friction of life, and the weight of challenge are not burdens. They are the architects of a life lived fully, powerfully, and authentically. If this resonates, I invite you to subscribe for more reflections like this, to share this message with someone who may be struggling and needs to hear it, and to comment with your own experiences or thoughts, knowing that every voice contributes to a community of men, discovering that suffering is not the enemy, but the hidden path to clarity, strength, and true mastery of life.